Welcome back to the Religious Treehouse. I'm Jody.
And I'm Matthew.
How are you doing today, Matthew?
I'm doing, at the time of this recording, there's a lot of world events happening. So there's stuff happening, and this is exciting. And I'm excited to hear what's going to happen between this world event and the posting to see like what the people listening think what is the world event that we're referring to is. So there's just a lot happening, and I'm excited for it. Excited is the wrong word. Excited is not the right word, but we're
I,
here. We're here, and that's how I am. How are
I,
you?
I'm great. And we're going to use language so ambiguous that you won't know if this was recorded a month ago or not.
Yeah.
And isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Isn't that so exciting for us, especially here on this very serious religious podcast where we take material that has been created and review it sometimes, like movies, like Veggietales. Are you excited for today's episode, Matthew?
I am excited for Veggietales. This one's going to be a fun one for sure.
Yep. Today we are talking about the Veggietales movie Jonah.
Yeah.
And if you have not seen that, I pause the episode, go to YouTube. You can watch it for free. And actually, if you're watching us on YouTube, and then come back to YouTube and watch us on
Both at the
here,
same time? See if you
both
can
at the
do
same
both.
time,
Yeah.
just enjoy. Okay, so how shall we dive in?
Uh, um, I don't know. I think this is going to be a fun bounce around episode where we don't really talk about anything, but we talk about everything. But this is great. We're talking about VeggieTales. I think this is our first children's movie we've done.
We did the Prince of Egypt. What are you talking about?
I forget about that one. That was not a children's. I guess it is a children's movie. A lot of my friends, like people my age, like still watch that movie, so I associate it with like people I know who are adults like us. But
Because they
VeggieTales
start,
is like very clearly a kids movie to me.
and to you, I say it's because they started watching it when they were children, and my 30-year-old husband very much enjoyed VeggieTales.
Yeah.
So it's for everyone.
Yeah,
Rated E for everyone.
I think it's rated G, but yes.
G for general audiences. Same,
Yeah.
same. All right. So, VeggieTales, if you don't know what VeggieTales are, it is a lovely catalog of Christian stories, but biblical stories, I guess would be more accurate to say.
I
And
mean, they do both. They also have like a Lord of the Rings parody. So, like, I don't know. They do Bible and other Christian stuff.
but if you grew up in an evangelical household, you might be very familiar with this. Um, Going to Sunday school, if they didn't want to teach a lesson that day, they just turned on VeggieTales, gave you goldfish, and said, "Have at it."
Yeah.
And that was fun and relaxing. And in today's story, we open up in a car singing a fun road trip song. And we meet our first characters. We got a tomato, an asparagus, a baby carrot, pea. Is Junior an asparagus too? I
Yeah,
feel like,
yeah, because he's Mr. Asparagus' son.
yes, you're so right.
Right.
Junior asparagus, and then one green girl I cannot identify. Green bean?
Green, maybe. I can't even picture them in my head right now.
She's the same thing that Esther is. I know that because they have similar shapes.
I haven't seen VeggieTales other than this episode for many, many years. I am not familiar with what Esther is, what vegetable Esther is in the VeggieTales universe.
I cannot believe this. Okay, we'll have to watch Esther next. But they're singing a fun song, and you find out they're going to a concert for a gentleman named Whippo. How fun is that name?
Yeah, that's a fun name.
Yes. And one of the girls, Laura, has a backstage pass, and she's bragging. She's all braggadocious.
Mhm.
So excited because she gets to meet Twippo. And then chaos ensues, and they crash into a tree stump, and Bob gets stuck in the bottom by a porcupine.
Right. Let's take a break and let's analyze the dynamics happening with these vegetables. How do these vegetables know each other? How is it that they're going to this concert together? I don't think we got a backstory, but what backstory did you give them?
Very obviously, this is a youth group trip. Immediately, I was like, it's giving youth group. There's that one dad who brings the guitar, who sings the songs, and then there's the youth pastor who's actually driving the vehicle. And you're kind of like, why do they have 4 children with them? I don't know, but
Yeah.
they're going to a concert. So, hey, that was
Yeah,
my
no,
read on
it's
the situation. What was yours?
it's definitely giving like youth group vibes. We're trying to connect with the kids that are watching this. This is, a Christian production company. So we're very much trying to relate to the Christians with this movie. So they're trying to like emulate a youth group scene, I think. Or like, I don't know, do kids' church do things like this? I don't know.
And kids' churches would like go out and do things.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We would, I went to Build a Bear one time on a church outing,
sure. Yeah. So
things
yeah,
like
it's
that.
trying to emulate like your stereotypical evangelical event for, youth or kids. It's for sure the vibe that we're getting.
Yes. So they're singing a fun little song about grade school when someone Bob is trying to navigate using a map because they don't have GPSs at this time.
Because this
This
is
is,
2002.
yep, pre-GPS. And they swerve to avoid the animals, which I love. I'm like, wow, look at those good Christian values. We're loving our animal friends.
I thought their tires popped and it sent them into the ravine.
Mm,
God diverted the car so
Jesus
that
took the wheel.
Jesus took the wheel. Yeah.
And they end up stranded. They're like, what do we do? And they see a sign in the distance that says seafood. The D blinks on later. It's a seafood restaurant. They're near a river.
Right.
There's no, I mean, you do see the ocean on the map. Oh, and we saw Route 66 on the map. So you have to assume they're in California if they're near the ocean and on Route 66, given those context clues.
Yeah, given those context clues, sure. Yeah.
Making a wild jumping guess.
Right. Which, and Route 66 in California is known for its rivers and thick woods. And yeah.
And being near a seafood joint. But they go in and they meet the peas in a pod. The two peas are two of my favorite characters, and their role in the Esther movie, like they always have the really funny, like court gesture kind of role. So I was
Well,
excited to
yeah.
see them.
I feel like I need to step up my Veggietales knowledge because I am unaware of anything you're talking about.
These dynamics carry out through the entire series. Like you know who the good and bad guys are based upon the vegetable that is
Of
playing them.
course. Good.
Yeah, it's a
Sure.
very well cemented lore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they go to the restaurant. They sit down. Mr. Asparagus goes to call his wife and a tow truck, presumably. Junior Asparagus goes to sit down with Laura, and Bob leaves them there. And so these two unsupervised children are sitting in a seafood restaurant when they're approached by 3 grungy looking older vegetables who
Mhm.
claim to be pirates.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean typical youth group trip, right? Like we if you grew up in an evangelical church, you're all familiar with this scene. We've all been there.
And in the background, you hear in low voices, "We are the pirates who don't do anything."
Right. And that's like who knows what this episode is. This is like taking a detour from like what we like usually do. But isn't like when I was watching this, I'm familiar enough with the VeggieTales to know the pirates who don't do anything. And I was expecting a full-on Pirates Who Don't Do Anything song, and we never got that. And I was very confused about how I know this Pirates Who Don't Do Anything song. Is that like a silly song with Larry from another VeggieTales type thing?
No, so I think it was its own independent thing. It's another biblical story. They just brought them back for this because
Of
it
course.
fit the narrative. Because there is a larger, what you're thinking of in your mind of a larger production upon a ship
Hmm.
is something that happened. I'm assuming
Okay.
that might be what your mind's visualizing.
Maybe it could be.
Yeah. No, I'm fairly certain because I think the first time I watched this for our Jonah episode, which is episode 8, if you want to go and watch that for more information on Jonah. Um,
Where we're much more structured and have a much better idea of what's going on.
so much more structured. You could say our current conversation may be a reflection of the world around us, but still we persevere. And I had to look up the Pirates Who Don't Do Anything song because I was like, I thought it was much bigger than this, but no. And while he's hearing this, little Asparagus Jr. opens up the menu. You see some items. You got shrimp scampi, you got shrimp on a skewer, shrimp on a clean skewer, and then compassion at market price.
Of course.
And so Junior Asparagus is sitting there and have these nice older gentlemen having heard Junior Asparagus and Laura are trying to give some advice to these children.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't trust an older gentlemanly vegetable, but for a message to children, I do think stranger danger does need to be reiterated.
Sure. Oh, I also think it's really interesting how kids' movies are structured so much differently than like your standard adult movie. Not adult movie, but your standard movie. um, and then because everything is so explicitly laid out, like, oh, this is going to be about compassion. And I think religious movies made from a production company or whatever that is trying to be explicitly religious in their sense. I think these types of movies are really good to see kind of what's important to that religion. It's a good way for these movies to present like a boxed in, quick little look at what are the go-to things that are important to this religion. And so we can look at these movies like Veggietales to be able to very easily lock in on what are some of the core concepts in a religion, in this case, Christianity, and the core concepts that are being laid out here are going to be compassion, and then later we'll also see mercy. And that
Yes.
plays out through the story. So one of my favorite things, I like if you're learning about new religion and you're like a visual learner, and you like watching movies and stuff. I think one of the best ways to do that is to watch children's media from that religion so that you can see kind of what are the basics and then you can learn and you can lean into the more intricate details. But this is, as a children's movie, a good starter to see what's important in a religion.
These are all true things you said. And it's just flat out entertaining, guys, because this movie doesn't even come with the silly songs with Larry. Okay, Larry didn't come out and sing a silly song. We got some songs, but a regular VeggieTales episode, try it. This is such a fun episode though, because then Bob comes up and he's complaining about Mr. Asparagus not being able to read a map, and that is when we get Mercy at market price. If you don't know what market price is, it means that's what it was that day when they went to the market to buy it. I feel the need to explain this because I had to explain it to Connor.
Oh, cool.
Some people don't know what market price is, which is fine because not a lot of people live near the ocean where that's a thing. Or get food that's fresh from a market that day. Anyways, moving on. So they're like, hey, we've got a story for you. Have you ever heard of Jonah? And they start to talk about their experience learning about compassion and mercy. And we are transported both just moving locations or back in time. I'm confused
Yeah.
because the attire changes, but they're the same age.
Yeah.
So
It's no, I was thinking about that at the end of the movie because it's very much set back in time, but also they're telling the story in a very modern, well, 2002 modern restaurant. um, so that was, hey, it's a kids movie. We don't need that much continuity.
physics doesn't exist here. And we get to see a little bit about these pirates. They want to win a golden ticket for Cheese Curls because that's going to matter later in the episode. And they are the guy who played the cheese curl guy. He's the one, oh my gosh, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. What's the
Okay.
king? He also played the
Nebuchadnezzar.
king in Esther.
Oh, I know Nebuchadnezzar is going to be the
Yes.
king in that story. I don't know if the VeggieTales version had the same king, but
No, it wasn't Nebuchadnezzar. You're right. But that's what I mean by like the same vegetables, same plate. They are typed. They're cast typed. Anyways, justice for them. Jonah comes riding in on his camel. You've seen asparagus on a camel. Have I skipped over something?
No, keep going.
No, yeah, keep going. And he starts to give his great news. Everyone knows Jonah. Everyone listens to Jonah. Everyone sings with Jonah.
Mhm.
And Jonah sings this great song. What stood out to you from it?
Okay, so I think in our first podcast that we did, I talked about how much I hate when people like nitpick the artistic choices of like what they did differently than like how the Bible is and yada yada yada. But I can't not. Like I think it's very interesting to show Jonah as this beloved prophet when like if we want to show like a beloved prophet, there's plenty of other prophets that we can choose. Jonah is not beloved by anyone. Jonah is disliked universally by like everyone. We get two mentions of Jonah, the book of Jonah, and then we get one-off mention where he like is wrong. And like so Jonah is not this beloved prophet, but hey, for the sake of this movie, we'll all love him. Which I think they did a really good way for explaining to kids what a prophet is, because they kind of had Jonah um, walking in and they have the pirates who don't do anything narrating the whole event, and they describe a prophet. How do they describe it? I wrote it down.
A mailman.
Um, yeah. Prophets are people who send messages from God, kind of like a mailman, and that was, I think, a good metaphor for a kid in understanding what a prophet is. Maybe in 2025, kids don't know what mailmen are, but I mean, you just don't get mail anymore. But
So true. It was painful. The Amazon man.
the Amazon man. But yeah, like a prophet is someone who speaks on behalf of God, speaks for God, or whatever, sends messages of whatever sort, just like a mailman. So I think that was a good metaphor that they used. That was that was easy to understand for children. But
Definitely.
but they were way too happy for a prophet. Prophets very rarely bring good news.
I know he came in and it wasn't just good news he gave them rules. He said no more pork, no more bats, no more insects. 4 tassels on your shrug. What is it?
On your
Scarf.
cloak, shirt, scarf, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's something I wanted to poke out here. Poke out. What did I
Point
say?
out.
Point out. I'm poking and pointing. It's a day, y'all. Um, that I don't know. This kind of irked me that we were like the laws, the commands that Jonah was kind of telling these people were like very, very Jewish laws that he was expressing. It's a lot of kosher laws, tassels, and then it goes away from that to like general platitudes like don't do drugs, stay in school, and I don't know. And then the all the non-kosher restaurants turn into bagel shops. I don't know. It felt like it was playing with Judaism in a way that it wasn't anti-Semitic, but it played with it in a way that I was like, okay, that was a choice that we made. We're being very Jewish with this, but also very clearly not Jewish.
Yeah, Connor was kind of like, I'm sorry, did those turn into bagel shops? And I was like, yes, yes, they in fact did. What bothered me about that was it wasn't a bagel shop on each side and the coffee place in the middle. They had two
Mhm.
bagel shops next to each other. But that's just because my artistic brain was like separated. Okay.
Yeah, I love how like you remembered all of these details that I'm referencing for this movie. Like you've got this movie down. You have this one down scene by scene. You like studied for this, you took notes. Like this is your jam. You're doing your thesis on this. No.
Yeah, no, I take Veggietales very seriously. Come holiday season, we're watching one of the tear jerkers, and I will be bawling.
I'm sorry, there's a VeggieTales movie that makes you cry?
There's plenty of VeggieTales movies that make me cry. What is this?
Sure.
There are episodes that make me cry. We haven't even talked about the water buffaloes. Okay. So we get that. And then Jonah goes to get a new message.
Right.
And he is also, do you love Jonah's monocle?
Yeah, he had a monocle. That's a fact. I have no thoughts on the monocle.
Cool. And he's
Also,
praying to God and he's like, where do you want me to go? I'll go like anywhere. Oh, no, no, no. Wait, before that, We did get introduced to some people from Nineveh
Yeah,
before the song. They were slapping each other in the face with fish.
right. And then one of the pirates threw some shade at them, like, ah, typical Ninevite.
Yeah,
Which, starting off strong at looking at Ninevites and saying those are bad guys, setting up a difference between us and them.
yeah. So that gave us the undertone. So when we got to Jonah praying to God, saying, "What do you want me to do? Just tell me what to do. I'll do it." And then God says, "Go to Nineveh." And he loses it. Thoughts?
Right. Yeah, I mean, accurate, biblically accurate vegetable. Um, so like what I didn't like about this is that they described Nineveh as like the biggest, meanest people around who lied, stole, and slapped people with fishes. Oh, like, okay, cool. We're making this for kids. But what I really liked about this is that they also talked about how they didn't know the difference between right and wrong, and how like Jonah wanted God to wipe them off the face of the earth. Like they were pulling directly from the biblical text and like kind of like this scene clearly didn't happen in the 4 chapters of Jonah, but like phrases are certainly being lifted from the text and being put into asparagus Jonas's mouth, which I think is I enjoyed. I thought they were doing that very intentionally, and that was interesting. Good artistic choices and keeping it artistically their own, but also staying true to the source text.
Yep. It was a good scene. And Jonah's absolutely not going to do that. So he starts running around like a madman saying, "No, no, no, no." Runs into a travel agent who's like, "I can't get you to Nineveh. It's landlocked." And then he keeps running around and he runs into the pirates
Mm,
who are going to take him elsewhere.
right.
How do you feel? Because in the original biblical story, was it merchants or fishermen?
I don't have the Hebrew with me, but it was, I think, just sailors. We went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. He paid his fare, and they're just sailors of some sort.
Okay.
Um,
Do you feel them being pirates had any impact on the tone of the story?
well, okay, well, so I think there's the idea of pirates as generally being bad or evil or wrong of some sort, and I think that was good because the idea of these sailors that these are not Israelite sailors. These are not on the side of Jonah. These are off doing their own thing. So having that difference between like a regular person, a regular vegetable, and like someone who's clearly delineated as being different and other and worse to in at least the eyes of Jonah, I
Mm,
think that was good.
yeah.
Did they have to be pirates? No, but is that more entertaining for kids? Absolutely. But they did do good in having that tie the whole story together by having this being told from the perspective of the pirates. I thought was engaging for a children's audience, and it kind of worked. It did well to work the characters
Yeah.
in throughout. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm cool. I'm cool with them being pirates. Are you?
We're down with the pirate vegetables. Yeah. And I think it works because pirates have a different code and the sailors, they followed a different religion. But in the biblical story, they still honored God and like that whole thing. So that dynamic, I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that the biblical sailors honored God. Well, I mean, we'll get to that
Well,
as
yeah.
the storm comes on. Uh,
But they need to be fearful, right? That's why they
yeah,
yeeted him off the
yeah,
ship.
right, right.
Okay. And he gets on the ship and he
Mhm.
goes down and he meets Khalil.
Yeah,
Thoughts on our little caterpillar worm hybrid friend?
right. Again, this is a good idea for them, for the creators of this in to insert a character that comes in later into the story and have him be more relevant. I have a couple problems. First of all, I don't know why he was half caterpillar, half worm. Why not just be worm? Like, I don't know. That's fine. Um, Second problem, how do we feel about the accents? Not just with Khalil, but with this, all of the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Connor asked me about the accents too. Um, the cheeseburger song is one of my favorite, and that is done by an accented character. So it is with all the Oh, my heart is broken to say I don't think these were good, strong choices, guys. I
Right.
don't think the accents were the way to go.
Right. Yeah. And then and the fact that Jonah wouldn't call Khalil by his name, but always called him Carlisle, like that, like for if the whole message of this movie is supposedly about like compassion, and you're not even going to learn this guy's name because it's a foreign sounding name and doesn't sound normal to our American ears. I don't that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, and if you were it's if someone were to approach it with the whole like, well, that's to show how not compassionate Jonah was because he kept saying it wrong, and to show how little compassionate Jonah has, I'm like, kids aren't gonna understand or grasp that. They're gonna understand and grasp like the obvious things in front of them.
Yeah, like
So
haha,
like,
that's funny. That's a funny sounding name, and we're saying a more normal sounding name.
yeah,
Haha. And yeah, not a fan of that.
no, no, that's not cool. But I agree with you. Fun way to introduce something that will be important later.
Mhm.
And I thought he had some funny moments. But a storm comes
Right.
and they're being tossed around. And as they, instead of casting lots, they play goldfish.
Yeah.
Not goldfish, go fish. What were your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, so I like they use some more, language here from the Bible where the pirate asked Jonah to pray to his God, uh, because someone must be upset with someone up there must be so upset with someone down here. So I thought they did good there at, you know, putting a distinction again between the pirates and Jonah, and then they completely get rid of that distinction later. But for this point here, they did good at showing the distinction here and showing that Jonah and the pirates were different from each other. And I don't know. I had questions about what the drawing lots was. Was this because they didn't want to show a form of gambling? Because that's essentially what this was. Did they not want to show, a kind of, magic? Because that's also, or a divination of some sort, because that's also kind of what this is. Was it because they wanted to make a fun sequence because they needed a joke in here? I don't know, maybe. But choosing to play Go Fish instead of drawing lots was a choice that I'm not upset about per se, but I would love to know the reasoning behind their choice for this.
Yeah, they could have just drawn straws, but it was a very intense cinematic experience
Right.
of Go Fish. It was well designed and storyboarded. But
Yeah.
eventually they're like, Jonah needs to, and as Larry so helpfully pulls out, walk the plank
Right. Of
because
course.
he was just gonna jump. But then he walks the plank, he goes out, and the storm stops.
You're right. Um, I didn't love that the pirates who don't do anything said a quick little prayer before throwing Jonah over. Because that kind of took away from the distinction that was made earlier that they were other. And then they're like, actually, Jonah, we worship the same God as you. Like the idea of a children's movie showing that there are people that worship other gods was just too much for this one. We had to be like, all right, these pirates are actually Christians, just like Jonah was. So they tried, and then they had to eventually concede that, like, hey, no, these pirates are actually good guy, and we know that they're good guys because they worship the same God as us.
Yep. And that is what defines them. And so then they try to save Jonah. Jonah gets
Mhm.
swallowed. They
With
shoot.
beautiful use of Jaws theme, using like galumphy children's issue music, but like still having like the Jaws theme in there. My favorite joke of the entire movie.
I'm glad you appreciated that. And they fire a bowling ball
Right.
to stop the fish because they're obviously being pulled because they had thrown him a life raft and that got caught. And it's all regular children's movie stuff going on. It's children movie shenanigans.
Yeah, children's movie shenanigans. Jonah gets swallowed by a whale, and then Khalil, the caterpillar worm, also gets swallowed by the whale. Um, Again, we talked about this in the Jonah episode. It's a large fish, a very, very large fish. And we get to that later. They switch back and forth. When Jonah is in the whale, it's a whale. But when talking about it with the Ninevites later, it's a very big fish.
Mm.
Trying to appease everyone, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they too understand that the fish change genders, but in order to show that, they thought it would change species.
Yeah, I don't think that was going through their mind.
No, I don't think that was the intent, but I'll say it was.
Yeah. If
And
and for those unaware of what we're talking about, check out episode 8 where we talk about Jonah.
and then Jonah's in the whale, and he is visited by holy spirits of some kind that take the form of a choir.
Yeah, we get a gospel choir of angels talking to Jonah. Um, and again, like, because this in the book of Jonah, this is one of the most confusing passages, like for sure. Like chapter 2 is the most confusing part of Jonah, at least to me, because Jonah is currently swallowed up, and then in the Bible we get this kind of prayer of thanksgiving, which like doesn't make sense. Like this is not anything that tracks for what we know about Jonah and the situation that Jonah is in. But and I think they recognize that in the movie. They recognize that a prayer of thanksgiving is not fitting for this scene. And instead, we get Jonah being like, "Oh my goodness, life is horrible. This sucks. Everything's bad." And then the angels come around to like try to change his mind and get him focused on the job ahead. And that's that makes sense. That's what you would expect from you know a lament in a whale. Uh, the artistic choices here, I think, were great. Did you notice any of the artistic things happening?
I really just want to hear you talk about what you noticed.
So many crosses, Jodie. There were crosses literally everywhere. This is the scene in the movie where if you didn't know this was a Christian movie, you knew it here. Their outfits, all of their outfits were crosses. Every single angel vegetable was dressed as a cross. There were so many boats in the belly of the whale, and all we could see were their masts, and they didn't have any like sails or anything, so all I could see was the cross of their mast. Like there were so many crosses everywhere, and I thought that was so good at making it explicitly Christian. They said this is a Christian movie. Look at all these crosses in the background that were dancing around, very reminiscent of Judas dancing in Jesus Christ Superstar, but
Ooh.
just because we're dancing around a bunch of crosses. And then because a lot of the scenes there were like three crosses, very reminiscent of Jesus and the two thieves on the side of him. So, and again, I think this is included in the movie. If I were guessing why this was included in the movie, it would be so that when churches, whoever's watching this is talking about this, they can talk about how Jonah is used in the New Testament for as a prophecy for Jesus. And look, we can see the crosses, and just like how Jonah came out of the whale in 3 days, Jesus rose from the grave in 3 days, and that's why we have that cross there. So I think these were very, very intentional choices to have crosses there so that in teaching children this story, they can insert Jesus in and talk about how this is a Christian narrative too, that Jesus is very much involved in this without explicitly saying it in the movie.
Yep. It's like you were in children's church with me when I heard it, because that's about it.
Is that
Yeah.
cool? I
Yeah.
don't remember any of this. Like I also grew up in evangelical church, so but I don't remember how this was ever taught or anything. But that's, as I know now, how I would assume it was taught, given the artistic choices that were made.
Yes. Unfortunately, I have a good memory of those lessons. Uh, anyways, moving on. He's out. He it, I he gets out of the whale and he's like, okay, I'll go to Nineveh.
Mhm.
I'll do it. I'll do the thing. And he tries to go to Nineveh and they tell him, no, you cannot come here.
Right.
Okay. Any thoughts up to there? It's a short sequence, but
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we need conflict. For a movie to work. We need some sort of conflict. Up until this point, the conflict has been internal with Jonah.
mm,
Oh no, I don't want to go to Nineveh. I don't want to go to Nineveh. And then we get to Nineveh, that conflict has ended. We need to create a new conflict in order for a story to feel like a story is happening. And they do that by having the Ninevites being, very dismissive, very angry with Jonah and his crew and saying, no, you can't come in, yada, yada, yada. So then the new conflict that is here is how can Jonah get into the city to tell his prophecy, uh, which takes time. And he
Yeah.
eventually does it and gets in with the help of the pirates who don't do anything. They show up again.
Who have won the cheese curl sweepstakes
Yeah,
and got so much money that they bought more cheese curls and invested none of it.
right.
Ridiculous choices. But they get in, they see the Ninevites slapping each other with fishes,
Mm-hmm.
just a lot of fish slapping, and they get called out because it was after Jonah announced himself. Yes?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how the
Anyways, they
movie
get
goes.
rounded up, tied to poles, and
Yeah,
then threatened with the great slap, which is
which
the squishing of a vegetable.
the death penalty. Right. So again, we've had to escalate the the problem here so that the movie can be entertaining for children. We don't see this in the Bible at all. Jonah walks in, says his thing, walks out. But we've created this whole narrative here, and eventually they find what is their excuse for like finally listening to him? Oh, because he was in the belly of a great fish,
Yes.
and because they worship big fishes, it makes Jonah valid and like his prophecy. Okay, they'll listen to it. That was the rationale.
That was the rationale. But what I loved most about the kingdom of Nineveh was the fact that it was run and operated by the cheese curl guy. It was a
Mhm.
corporate owned town.
Aren't
And
they all?
aren't they all? No, it was a corporate run town. And that's why they were doing so many bad things because it was a corporate run town. And then they were all fine because he was in the fish.
Mhm.
Um, but I really loved the death penalty thing. To give an example, they had a gourd with a drawn on face. So it wasn't one of the talking vegetables. It was just an actual vegetable with a drawn on.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And then the cat Khalil being like, what's going on? Because he can't see because he's tied behind Jonah.
Right.
So, but yeah, then they're saved. And Jonah gives the message and Jonah leaves. And then
Well,
Jonah,
okay. No, this is
oh,
okay. This is my biggest problem with the movie
okay.
because I think the story of Jonah hinges around his prophecy. That's like what prophets do. His prophecy is what makes the prophets matter. And the biblical prophecy is so short and succinct. 40 days more and you will be overturned, and Nineveh shall be overthrown, or something like that.
Mm.
And here we get this big old long drawn out explanation where Jonah says, no, I mean it's not big long drawn out, but I have it somewhere. Jonah says, stop it, stop cheating, stop lying, and especially stop slapping people with fishes, or this entire city will be destroyed. A message from the Lord. And like the point of this message is that it's so vague, that Jonah is so against talking to the Ninevites that he just wants to get in there and get out, do the absolute bare minimum without giving the Ninevites, room for a second chance, as the theme persists in this movie, that second chances is the theme, but rather by having instructions here of stop it, stop cheating, stop lying, or the city will be destroyed. I think that distorts the message of the biblical narrative because Jonah isn't telling them to stop doing things. Jonah is just saying, hey, heads up, y'all, you're going to be destroyed in 40 days. It's going to be overturned in 40 days. Peace out. And then the people are, and then because there's no reason for the Ninevites to listen to Jonah as in the biblical narrative, but the people listen to him, and it gets to the king, and the king listens, and they all don sackcloths and repent and do all those things. Whereas in this movie, we've had to establish some sort of reason for the people of Nineveh to respond to Jonah.
Hmm.
And I think this is just to make sense for children watching this, for them to be able to answer the question, well, why did they change their ways? Well, it's because they trusted Jonah, and Jonah is a prophet, and prophets are to be trusted, and we like prophets. So like I think that's fine for a kids movie to make sense of this. And as I said earlier, kids movies like these are a good way to understand the morals and the basics of like what happens in these religions. But if we want to like get to the basics of or the depths of understanding what's actually going on here, we can't take like kids movies like to the utmost seriosity.
Yeah, no, no, and I think that really was established with the crosses and the whale belly. But it was Jonah throws a fit, which I think that was accurate. His little fit
Yeah,
up on the hill.
right. Well, before we get there,
Okay, sorry.
the king said, "I had no idea that we were supposed to do all these things. Now I know." And this is again the very explicit messaging that we get in kids' movies, like, "Oh, I didn't know that I was supposed to do something bad, but now
Mm,
that I know, I have to do this."
yeah,
And it's as kids' movies are all about, for the most part, moral building of some sort. You don't have a kids' movie. I don't know. Maybe modern kid movies do. I haven't watched a kid movie in a while.
I have. Come at me.
But the point of kids movies are to develop morals and ethics and a sense of right and wrong in kids. So by having it laid out explicitly, hey, Jonah told you what is right, therefore now you know what is right, therefore you must now do what is right.
Mm.
Is I feel like the message that they're trying to push here.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that. Yeah. I don't know. I watched it twice and I was still kind of confused on how everything tied together, I gotta be honest. It wasn't like K-pop Demon Hunters where I was like, yes, I understand the messaging. That is a more recent children's movie that has
Okay,
broken records worldwide.
cool. And I've certainly heard of it.
So certainly. But now are we at the throwing the fit thing?
Yeah, no. He throws a fit after because we kind of get a narrative from the vegetables saying that Jonah figured God wouldn't really forgive the Ninevites and hoped that they would get what they deserve.
Yes.
Um, and I think we're getting back on track. This is where I really appreciate this movie. Like up
Mm,
until this point, they've taken artistic choices that were here or there. I don't care. They're fine, and they've done a few things. They're like I have no complaints. Like as a kids movie, they did great so far. But this is where I really appreciate this as a retelling of a biblical narrative because most times when you read Jonah as a kid's presentation of it, they stop at chapter three. Chapter
mm,
three is where it ends and it's okay. They repented, everything's good. Jonah did his job. He forgives them. They're all on the same page. Everyone's happy. It's a great story. But the heart of this message is in chapter 4, where Jonah is pissed off, where Jonah wouldn't forgive the Ninevites, where Jonah hates the Ninevites, and he wants them to be punished by God. And then here we get God being compassionate towards Jonah and causing a plant to grow and shield him from the very hot sun. And then we get the worm eating the plant, or in the movie's case, we get Khalil eating the plant. And then we get the crash out from Jonah.
yes. Well, I my initial tantrum was him saying they deserve it. They're gonna die. But
Oh,
yes, there was that second tantrum afterwards. I just thought the whole thing was a tantrum. I'm like, he's being such a child about this. I mean, literally, God is telling you, like, chill, let people learn,
yeah.
and I'm going to give them compassion. Like, calm down, boy.
But this is like in my in my viewing of it, this is the most biblically accurate vegetable we have so far of this. Like this is like if with all retellings there's interpretation, but this stays as true to the biblical text as it possibly can in my opinion.
Yeah.
um from without putting other it does, it still
Yeah.
puts in their interpretation and stuff into it, but it stays very very close to chapter 4 of Jonah, and I really appreciate that
Yeah.
because Jonah is acting like a little crybaby kid
Yeah.
in the Bible and here. Like that they do that so good at showing that Jonah is freaking out and very upset. Um, like Jonah even says in the movie, if God wants to give him a second chance, I wish I were dead. And in the Bible, Jonah repeatedly wishes he were dead. And like to have that in a kids movie, is I think so good. I mean, maybe not good for the kids, but I think so good in like retelling the biblical narrative. I think it's I really appreciated that at least.
Honestly, I really resonated with it when he said that because I was like, given current events, yeah,
Sure.
I feel that.
Oh, and then at the end of it, the very end of the pirates retelling the story, they end not with what was their quote? The question isn't what did Jonah learn, but what did you learn? And again, I think that one did a really good job at presenting this back at the children watching this, at creating the morals of a children's movie, of a Christian children movies, trying to say, hey, there are morals being applied here. Think about them and figure out what they are, compassion and mercy and yada yada. But that's also how Jonah ends. It ends with the question, where is it? And should I not be concerned about Nineveh, that great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from the left, and also many animals? Like the fact that their story ends with a question, and the biblical narrative ends with a question, not with Jonah figuring it all out, but putting Jonah in the situation of, hey, should Jonah have compassion? Hey, Jonah should Jonah have mercy? Or in the biblical narrative, should Jonah be okay when God forgives enemies? I think they did a really good job at switching the morals around, switching like what exactly the morals that the biblical narrative is talking about around into their own that makes sense for children,
Yeah,
but having that follow that same format I thought was really really good.
yeah. And then, like you said, we wrap up the story and we return to the restaurant
Mm-hmm.
and we okay, sorry. One second. Let me recenter myself. I think the main things that they said were compassion is when you see someone that needs help and you help them. And
Mm-hmm.
mercy is giving someone a second chance, is kind of the way they put a bow on it. Would you agree?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Twippo comes into the restaurant because, again, this started over a concert ticket. Like the reason they crashed was because the concert ticket went flying out the window. And I forgot to mention that earlier. And they meet Twippo and he's like, hey, I got to get to my concert. I lost as one does before GPS, I don't know where the I-5 is or something like that. And they're like, yay, Twippo will help you. And he's like, I'll give you a ride. And everything's going great. And Twippo's like, have you ever heard of Jonah? And they're like, yes, yes, we have. And then Twippo sings a song. And then Khalil makes one more appearance as the tow truck driver.
Yeah.
Anything from that ending sequence that stood out to you?
um yeah, I mean, it was essentially a recap music sequence, like, hey, this is the story that we just watched, remember all of the things. Which I think in children's media, it's good, especially in church settings, that it's probably shown in, to have a discussion afterwards, to talk to the children, to make sure that they understand what mercy and compassion is. And they kind of highlight that by having the little baby asparagus try to give his ticket to the baby carrot because she lost her ticket. Oh, look, an example of how you can do compassion and mercy.
Yeah.
Again, children's media is really good at laying things out in black and white, saying this is how you can be compassionate, this is how you can be merciful. But yeah, uh, yeah, I think that's all my thoughts on that.
And unfortunately for us, children's media only works for so long because then you get into the big bad world and everything's a little bit more gray.
Yeah.
And then you're adults talking about the children's movie and you're like, gosh, I miss when life was black and white. But I'm happy you watched the Veggietales Jonah. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, they handled it much better than I expected they would. So, apart from, a little bit of racism here and there, uh, like, you know, other than that, looking past that, like, it was good.
Yeah. Would you say this is a religious movie or a movie that depicts religion?
Yeah, I would put this one in the religious section for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
what did you rate it on Letterboxd?
I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Fair,
I don't.
fair.
We should do that. We should do that at the end of this. We should say our ratings. That's something we'll do from now on. Guys, follow me on Letterboxd. We don't have a religious treehouse Letterboxd,
Yet.
I don't know how you share your letterbox things, but follow me on Letterbox. It's so much fun. Um, I don't know. Send us a message. I'll send you my letterbox link. I don't know how to share that to like the public. Like I don't know what my username is on it. Um,
We'll figure it out.
we'll
We'll
figure it
attach
out.
it somewhere. But I think 3.5 is fair. I think I'd also go with that. It's not my favorite VeggieTales movie, but it's a good one.
Right. Well, I mean, the way I rate things, we're going back on a detour. That's cool. The
Sorry,
way I
let's
rate
go.
things, like if it's 4 or higher, it's like one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
If it's 3 stars, that's gonna be your average movie, and if it's 2.5 or less, it's gonna be like, yeah, I don't care about it, yada yada. So 3.5 to me means, yeah, it was a fine movie for its genre.
Mm.
Like if I were to rate this, I like rating things on like what their genre is. So for a kids movie with these biblical themes, 3.5 stars I think is fair because there's a little too much racism for me in it.
Buddy, you really got to watch K-pop Demon Hunters. People say there are Christian symbolism throughout the movie, so I will do some research and see if we can justify watching it for the podcast because it's really good. But yeah, this one, 3.5 stars. We do need to get you into some more VeggieTale movies. Got some Esther, we got some stuff during Easter.
Mhm.
Guys, this has opened up a floodgate for VeggieTales content. And aren't we so jazzed about it? If you want to hear more from us, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. That's where you can find the podcast. If you just want our socials, go to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Bluesky. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me what it
TikTok,
was.
Instagram, Bluesky, Facebook.
YouTube, we also do our
YouTube.
social media stuff. YouTube, we have everything. Follow us on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Go to
That's the main
YouTube.
thing.
Watch us on YouTube. I do funny facial expressions sometimes. And sometimes you can watch Matthew as he's um I don't know what to call it, but when he gets into research mode and you lock in on your book and you're like trying to find the information, I think it's entertaining. But we're glad you joined us here at the Religious Treehouse, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Jonah was a prophet. Ooh. Oh, hello, editor. We're not done.
Wow, perfect timing.
We haven't
Did
finished recording yet. Get out of here.
Has anyone else died during the hour we've been distracted by recording?
Oh no.